This is a beautiful and wonderful country, or maybe I should say it was, before it was taken over by murderers, liars, and thieves. Yes, we do have a crime problem, and our biggest crime problems are the people running this government. Strong language? Yes, and I'm prepared to back it up with proof. Right now, though, I want to take a little time to explain who I am, why I made this tape, and why you need to see it. My name is Linda Thompson. I'm chairman of the American Justice Federation. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and when I was in the Army from 1974 to 1978, I worked first in the Military History Detachment and then for the Commanding General of Allied Forces Central Europe at NATO headquarters. In that capacity, I revised the NATO War Plans manuals. I also served in the Army Reserve afterwards as a training assistant until 1985. During that time, I was a secretary, a homemaker, and mother of 3 boys. I'm an attorney. I have a doctorate in law and a few other degrees of relative insignificance. I'm married to Al, who is a man of the highest character, other than his mom and dad, I've ever had the honor to know. We have 3 sons, and we live in a nice, fairly ordinary home outside of Indianapolis. Al is the president of American Justice Federation, an engineer in charge of our AEN radio and computer news networks. As an attorney, I took a special interest in cases where government agents abused their positions of trust. In fact, the main reason I went to law school was because I wanted to make a lasting contribution to preserving this great country. I believed then, though I don't now, that I could best do this through the courts. I started American Justice Federation because I had seen so many people who were forced to simply surrender their dignity and resign themselves to the fact that the humiliation and injury they suffered at the hands of the government would simply go unpunished.
Beat my child to death. They beat him to death like a dog. Just like a dog. They beat him to death. They beat up his head.
I believed then, and again I don't now, that if a few people here were to fight back through the courts, the abuse would stop or at least be slowed down. In 1987, Al and I began a computer bulletin board service, networking it with other computers across the country. In 1991, we decided to focus the efforts of the network on linking people across the country to share information that was not being reported on the national news. I began to realize that the media was intentionally not covering these stories, and I soon realized that cases where people were savagely beaten, shot, or killed by federal law enforcement and local police were not isolated events. We just weren't being told about them. In Idaho, in August 1992, government agents killed Randy Weaver's only son, 14-year-old Sammy Weaver, and Randy's wife, Vicki. An FBI sniper from the FBI hostage response team in Washington, D.C., appropriately called the HRT, or HURT team, blew the side of Vicki Weaver's head off as she stood holding her 10-month-old daughter, Elishaba, in her arms in the doorway of her own home. The media was kept 2 miles away as all this was going on. U.S. Marshals had set Weaver up, trying to put pressure on him to become an informant for them. 6 U.S. Marshals had traveled all the way from Boston to Idaho and kept Weaver and his family under surveillance, spying on them with cameras for 18 months, filming their every move. Finally, becoming bored, these U.S. Marshals provoked a confrontation by throwing rocks at the house to attract the Weaver's dogs. Kevin Harris and Sammy Weaver, believing they were chasing the Weaver's dog Yeller on the scent of a deer, ran out into a roadway and were confronted by a gunman in camouflage fatigues. The gunman shot the dog. Agents hiding in the woods began firing, hitting their own agent and killing Sammy. As Randy went to check on Sammy's body in the shed later, a sniper fired on him. His wife ran to the doorway of their home holding their baby, calling, "What's happened? What's wrong?" As the sniper's bullet tore off the side of her face, she slumped to her knees and bent over dead in the doorway, shielding her baby even in her death. The governor of Idaho declared martial law, all for one man who'd never bothered anyone. An entire